Chapter 23:48. The blue sky was cool and slightly bleak. The streets were deserted. Because of the battle between kings, the scope of the battle was too large. The order of the city had already collapsed. Those who could run had already run away. Even those who couldn't run stayed at home and refused to come out. However, there were some unavoidable exceptions to everything. Many unknown people wearing helmets started a large-scale operation and moved forward in an orderly manner. Don't waste time. Hurry up. A large number of members of the Green Clan kept approaching Dustless's villa. They were all holding all kinds of weapons, such as dangerous guns, knives, and so on. We must kill that guy this time. Woju Hisashi waved his small hands excitedly. Due to his excessive joy, his expression was even a little morbid. The leader of this group was naturally the leader of the Green Clan, the Green King, Bai Shui. However, due to his physical condition, he was pushed over in a wheelchair. The Green King was originally a dying man. However, at the moment of his death, he obtained the power of a king. That was how he managed to survive until today. Don't be careless. That guy isn't weak. Bai Shui wasn't as calm as he said cautiously, perhaps Dustless is right. His power doesn't come from the Drexton stone plate. It's a power that we haven't come into contact with before. However, it does exist. Impossible. If that's the case, isn't that guy too shocking? The coiling boat Sky Rooster frowned and touched his chin. He had some doubts in his heart. If that was the case, Dustless was really a heretic among heretics. Ah. Since you understand this situation, you should know that the unknown is often the most dangerous. However, why do you still want to fight me now? You're just seeking your own death. A ripple that could be seen with the naked eye suddenly swept across the endless sky. It spread out like a wave. This voice also entered everyone's ears. It's just for my dream. Bai Shuilio's expression changed slightly as he stared at the dancing lights in the sky. They were like countless golden fireflies circling around. He said solemnly, "Be careful, this guy is coming." Buzz buzz buzz, the large number of flashes of light accelerated and condensed. Finally, Dustless's body appeared one by one from head to toe. His cold eyes were like a god looking down on mortals, without the slightest hint of emotion. How arrogant! Looking up at Dustless in the sky, many people's faces changed. That provocative gaze was like a god looking down on an ant. There was no extra emotion in it, only naked and direct disdain. So strong. No wonder Zi and Su Jiu were defeated by him. Bai Shuilio's face was tense. Even though Dustless was quietly looking at him, and there was no aura directed at him, he still felt as if Mount Tai was pressing down on him. Beads of sweat even appeared on his forehead. You brat, don't be too arrogant. Our king is here and you still dare to look down on us. Su Kujio, who was standing next to Bisui Shuilu, was furious. He looked up at the sky. Everyone, pay attention. Shoot down that annoying bug in the sky. That guy's head is worth 100,000 points. Oh. Kill him. Ha ha ha, this kid is mine. 100,000 points. Doesn't that mean that if we kill him, we can instantly become an officer of the clan? It's not as simple as becoming an officer. 10 points is far more than what is needed to become an officer. Hearing this, the members of the Green Clan were extremely excited. Their eyes were greedily looking at Dustless in the sky. Everyone felt their blood boiling. Their lives had never been so exciting before. Bang bang bang. Countless bullets blasted into the sky, and the sound of the explosion rang in Dustless's ears. His body was blown apart in a short time, but it was quickly repaired by the elemental conversion of the glint fruit. This is not a place for you to be impudent. Dustless glanced at Su Kujio, who was laughing. With a flick of his finger, a huge beam of light pierced through the sky and fell from the sky. Laser. The bright beam of light was like a meteor, leaving a straight trail in the sky. Under the gaze of countless people, it rushed towards Tsukujio. Not good, quickly dodge. Seeing this, the Green King's heart trembled. He hurriedly shouted at Tsukujio, but it was too late. In front of the light, everything was too weak. Pucci. Under the gaze of countless people, the beam of light pierced through Tsukujio's head, leaving a fist-sized hole in between his eyebrows. Those with good eyesight could even see the brain matter in Tsukujio's head. Gulp. Damn it, are you kidding me? Our officer was killed in an instant. Is this guy even human? He's a super monster. Many people were scared out of their wits. Even their officers couldn't withstand a single blow, let alone them. They were probably cannon fodder. Run. It was also unknown who screamed out in fear and directly threw down the weapon in his hand and fled for his life. Dustless was really too powerful. This kind of shocking power was simply not what they could contend against and deal with. Some people were afraid and ran away. After a start, some people whose confidence had been crushed followed suit. They frantically ran for their lives like locusts. The previously aggressive army instantly collapsed. A bunch of useless good-for-nothings. When the coiling boat Sky Rooster saw this, he cursed out loud. He didn't even care about Kojio Haruna's death. A special flintlock suddenly appeared in his hand, and he fired a few shots toward Wuchen in the sky. P.S. 3,000 flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 comments plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. Chapter 2349. Bang! 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 The dense bullets pierced through Wu Chen's body, but it didn't have any effect at all. It was as if he was transparent and didn't hurt him at all. All the bullets pierced through Wu Chen and floated to the distant sky. Damn it, monster! Seeing this, many people cursed out loud. This unbelievable ability could make him immune to physical attacks, and it seemed that any attacks aimed at him were ineffective. How could they defeat such an enemy? Let's run. Our clan has offended such a powerful person. We're done for. Many members of the Green Clan who were hiding whispered to themselves. They all looked at the Green King, Bai Shuelu. This high and mighty king was also sweating profusely. He looked at Dustless as if he was facing a great enemy. Come at me all at once. Don't waste my time. In front of Bai Shuelu and others, the light condensed, and Wu Chen's handsome face appeared first, followed by his abdomen and legs. Sir, Bai Shuelu's mouth twitched. He pretended to be calm and asked in a low voice, I'll ask you one last time. Are you willing to release the power of the Drexten stone plate? If you release it, we can forget about the past and be friends. It's not good for you. Be friends. Are you worthy? Get out. Before he could continue, Dustless looked at Bai Shuelu mockingly. His words made Bai Shuelu change his mind. I've always been amenable to persuasion but not coercion. Perhaps when I'm bored in the future and feel that life is boring, I might really release the power of the Drexten stone plate to change the human race. Perhaps my boring days might become a little more interesting. But you people actually dared to threaten me. I've changed my mind now. Even if I'm addicted to that broken stone plate, I won't release its power. You're provoking me. Bai Shuelu's face turned green. This guy was too arrogant. He didn't take him seriously at all. This is not a provocation. Dustless suddenly raised his right foot. A bright light shone, and then he stomped it down. This is pure oppression. Boom! 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 The solid ground was crushed by Dustless's stomp like glass. Countless cracks appeared and spread in all directions, trying to swallow Bai Shuailu and the others. Retreat! Yu Shao, Shenzi, and the others quickly retreated, looking at Dustless in panic. What kind of monster was this guy? One kick was enough to cause an earthquake. Idiot, you still want to run? Dustless revealed a contemptuous smile. Large amounts of light drifted out of his body and disappeared as if he was shuttling through space. Looks like I can only use my full strength to deal with this. On the other side, Bai Shuailu sucked in a deep breath of cold air. He suddenly stood up from his wheelchair and ordered loudly, "Violet, leave this place to me. Hurry up and find the Drexton stone plate. Once we get it, we'll, Poochie." Before Bai Shuailu could finish his sentence, he felt a sharp pain in his abdomen. Chapter 2350. He shouldn't have noticed me. The coiling boat Sky Rooster was hidden in the gray mist. His eyes were like the eyes of an eagle, revealing a cold light. He gritted his teeth and said, "Lu, don't worry. Your sacrifice will not be in vain. I will avenge you." Although the coiling boat Sky Rooster was the King of Gray, he had defected to the King of Green. The two of them were very close. They had been friends for several years. In the Green clan, the King of Gray was like a father figure to the coiling boat Sky Rooster. Now, his child was being tortured to death. How could he bear it? Bang! 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 In anger, the King of Gray aimed at Dustless's head and pulled the trigger. Swoosh! Swoosh! The huge bullet pierced through the fog and went straight for Dustless's head. Pft! Pft! Even though he couldn't see clearly, the coiling boat Sky Rooster knew that there were two big holes in Dustless's head. He quickly ran over with joy. "Ha ha ha, you bastard, you're dead." The moment the laughing coiling boat Sky Rooster saw Dustless, his cheeks froze and his smile stopped abruptly. He saw Dustless fall to the ground and his breath completely disappeared. Dead, dead, finally dead, the coiling boat Sky Rooster's eyes shot out scarlet light. He was very excited. He thought that Dustless could still be repaired. Who knew that he was dead? Is he really dead? The coiling boat Sky Rooster approached Dustless carefully. After noticing the two holes in his head and the fact that he had completely stopped breathing, the coiling boat Sky Rooster burst into tears. "Lu, close your eyes in peace. I have already killed this bastard and avenged you." The coiling boat Sky Rooster was extremely excited. Even his rough old face was flushed red. Laser. At this moment, a ray of bright golden light pierced through the thick fog and shot straight at the coiling boat Sky Rooster's heart. Who is it? The coiling boat Sky Rooster wasn't an ordinary person. After all, he was a powerful king. He immediately turned his head to dodge, but it was too late. Pfft! The coasting boat Sky Pheasant's heart was burned by the light beam, leaving behind a charred hole. One could clearly see the scene on the other side. What's going on? Isn't that guy dead? When the coiling boat Sky Rooster saw Dustless walking out of the fog, his two huge old eyes froze. What's going on? Why aren't you dead? What the hell? The person who had ambushed him from behind was none other than Dustless, who had his hands in his pockets and walked over casually. Die. Dustless grinned and mocked, "In terms of strength, I am thousands of times stronger than you. Do you think I will be killed by you? What the hell is that?" Ignoring the piercing pain in his chest, the coiling boat Sky Rooster pointed at the corpse beside his feet and looked at the smiling Dustless. He was so angry that blood was spurting out. He felt like a clown being played by Dustless without restraint. Not even her corpse was left behind. P.S. 3,000 flowers plus updates, 3,000 gifts plus updates, 1,000 comments plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. Chapter 23:51. Time flew by and 3 days passed unknowingly. During this period, Dustless arranged everything and completed all the trivial matters that needed to be settled before leaving. As for the resurrected Silver King, his memory was completely sealed by Dustless. In the future, his identity would be the Azana Society and he would live an ordinary life. When they heard that Dustless was leaving, Kat and Dustless had different attitudes. Fortunately, Dustless did not force them and allowed them to choose. Kat was naturally willing to leave with Dustless. She had nothing to miss anyway. As for Anna, I've figured it out. The Venerable One has passed away, and Mio and Izumo have left Japan. Anna's eyes could not help but darken when she said this. The Great Vega Ballo was disbanded just like that. I'll go with you to relax. Anna looked at Dustless firmly. I told you before, right? It's not relaxing. Once you leave, you can't come back. Dustless was rarely serious. Don't think I'm joking. I'm serious, girl. But I don't have any relatives. Anna lowered her head. Her despondent look was really pitiful. Well, remember, this is your own choice. I didn't force you. It's useless to regret it in the future. Dustless looked at Anna for a moment and did not ask any more. After all, he did not force her. When everything was ready, Dustless took Anna and Kat into the system world. Since then, the era of the king's rule had completely ended, and mankind had begun to enter a new era of development. The traces of Dustless and the others' existence were all erased by Japan, becoming the biggest mystery in history. In the system world. In the blue sky, white clouds floated lazily. It was very happy. The world with beautiful scenery was always so stable compared to the outside world. It was always carefree, without any pain or loss. This was a new world. There was no distinction between friend and foe. Even a vicious criminal would become a good person if he continued to live such a comfortable life. Looks like it's settled. Wuchen stared at Ming, Anna and the cat who were playing on the lawn in the distance. They were unusually harmonious and got along well with other confidants. Seeing this scene, Wuchen couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. He threw aside the grass in his mouth and got into the black hole next to him with peace of mind. This was the spatial tunnel that had been prepared beforehand. Gulp. After the black hole swallowed Dustless, it disappeared. It was as if it had never appeared. Soon, peace was restored. This was a special world. Due to a sudden accident, most of the humans had gone extinct, and the city had been reduced to ruins. The humans who were lucky enough to survive also fell into a nightmare. They were kept in captivity by a group of powerful races and became delicious food. In short, this was a world ruled by vampires, and human civilization had been destroyed. Plop! A pitch-black figure fell from the sky, smashing through the thick walls and invading an unknown room. Unfortunately, it fell into a pool. F***CK, is he possessed by the god of misfortune? Why am I so unlucky every time? Dustless stood up in a daze and cursed. He had a splitting headache. It seemed that every time he transmigrated, he would encounter this kind of problem. It was really miserable. What the hell is this place? It looks very luxurious. Dustless looked at the surrounding buildings in a daze. This was obviously an indoor giant pool. There were many gems inlaid around it. It was brightly lit. At first glance, it was obvious that it was for nobles. Good, very good, human. How dare you invade when I'm bathing? Suddenly, a cold female voice came from behind. It was quite pleasant to the ears and was very majestic. Without looking back, he knew that the person behind it was either rich or noble. Who are you? The moment he turned his head, Dustless couldn't help but be stunned. What entered his eyes was a pink-haired lowly girl. She had gem-like blood-red eyes, and her facial features were also white without any impurities. She had a kind of paleness that belonged only to vampires. Her aura was also abnormally powerful. She was like a high and mighty queen. This chick, I seem to have some impression. Dustless frowned and thought hard. Suddenly, a strange girl appeared in his mind. He smiled and asked with interest, "You're called Clarissipesai. You know me?" This time, a wisp of surprise flashed past the young girl's cold appearance. After that, she looked at Wu Qin, who had a curious expression, and snorted coldly, "A country bumpkin like you, a country bumpkin, has also heard of me. Should I feel happy? After all, even a nameless junior like you knows about my reputation. This means that I'm still very famous. No, to be able to make me remember you, this is the blessing of 8 lifetimes, little brat." Dustless said calmly, but he didn't expect this sentence to make Clarissipesai choke with anger. "My blessing, there's a little brat." Clarissipesai's head was dizzy and she couldn't help but feel a little dazed. As the queen of vampires, her identity and status were unparalleled. Although she looked very young and immature, that was only on the surface. Her real age was probably in the triple digits or even older. No one dared to call her a little brat. Now that a mere human called her a little brat, it was like giving Clarissipesai a slap in the face. "Human, I'll make you regret living in this world." Without saying a word, Clarissipesai's small body flashed over. Her speed was as fast as lightning, and ordinary humans couldn't see her at all. Too slow. Dustless shook his head slightly. This speed was simply as slow as a turtle crawling to her. P.S. 3,000 fresh flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 comments plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. Chapter 2352. Too slow. Dustless's voice wasn't very loud, but it wasn't very soft either. Unfortunately, Clarissipesai happened to hear it. Her delicate little face suddenly flashed with a cold light. "Where did you get the courage to say that?" Krola's petite body suddenly exploded with an overwhelming power. Her speed increased several times in an instant, and she almost arrived in front of Dustless in the blink of an eye. Dustless's eyes were still staring ahead, as if he hadn't reacted yet. "Mere human, you can't even withstand a single blow." Krola smiled disdainfully and punched Dustless's abdomen without hesitation. Bang! Following the loud sound, Krola felt the hardness of her hand, and her arrogant face finally couldn't hold it any longer. "Are you tickling me?" Dustless looked at Krolu indifferently and grabbed Krolu's arm roughly. "If you want to hit someone, you should use your full strength like this." As soon as his voice fell, Dustless suddenly threw Krolu away. Boom boom boom. Dustless's attack was too strong. Krolu, who was thrown away, couldn't stop her body at all. She smashed heavily against the wall and spat out a mouthful of blood. Her face was as pale as paper, and her eyes were wide open. She looked at Dustless in horror. "Stand up. I know you're the queen of vampires, an out-and-out aristocrat. That was just a small problem for you." Dustless leisurely walked to Krola's throne and sat down calmly. He supported his chin with his hand and quietly looked at the stunned girl. "Who the hell are you?" Just as Dustless said, Krola stood up again. She was completely fine, and her tone was still full of majesty. "Pay attention to your attitude when you speak." Dustless coldly glanced at Krolu and said with contempt, "If you want to become a pile of rotten meat, I can fulfill your wish." "You!" Krolu's face turned pale. As the queen of vampires, who dared to talk to her like that? Even upper-class vampires, who were also aristocrats, were very respectful when they saw her. Now that she was being looked down upon by a human, Krolu was so angry that her delicate body trembled. "Emperor Ghost Army? I don't think so." I've never heard of such a person. Who are they? Krola's expression kept changing. She bit her thin lips so hard that she didn't realize that blood was flowing out. This world is really unpleasant. It's so foul. Wuchen took a deep breath and felt that his chest was inexplicably suffocated. Full of openings. Her eyes, his eyes, and her eyes. Her body flashed again, flashed, and fiercely pounced on Dustless fiercely, and her strength. She fiercely. Her strength increased strength, SSS. She's stronger, 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 STT. He. To T to his T. TSK tisk. A sinister smile came from behind. Dustless turned his head slightly, and casually glanced at Krolu. No wonder the humans were defeated by you. Chapter 2353. Krolu took a deep breath and suppressed the waves in his heart. He looked at Dustless with sparkling eyes, trying to see through the sky. Who the hell are you? Looking at Dustless with uncertainty, Krolu couldn't see through this person's origin. He didn't even know if he was a human or a vampire. If he was a human, how could there be such a strong human? At least Krolu hadn't seen one before. My name is Dustless. Dustless said calmly and then added, of course, I'm also your owner. You're my livestock from now on. You. Hearing this, Krolu's heart was in turmoil and he almost spat out blood. He looked at Dustless unkindly and asked coldly, do you know who I am? I'm not interested. Dustless was unmoved. I'm the queen of the vampires, the third ancestor. Krolu raised his voice and his pretty face regained its color. He looked quite proud. Is that so? Dustless showed a surprised expression, then looked at Krolu with satisfaction and said with a smile, that's good. My livestock status is so high, you won't embarrass me. You bastard, go to hell. Hearing this, Krolu was completely driven mad. He randomly picked up something and threw it over. Why is this kid asking for a beating? Embarrass you? Who do you think you are? Was he a god? Angel? Kolulu only felt that his head was about to explode. It was all because of Dustless. You're an ungrateful creature. Dustless slightly squinted his eyes. The place where his eyes looked seemed to be burning with flames. It was extremely terrifying. The moment Dustless squinted his eyes, Krolu's chest suddenly felt inexplicably heavy. He looked up and felt like he was being stared at by a prehistoric monster that could tear him apart at any time. Do you want to obtain this world? Dustless suddenly asked, I mean, to become the master of this world, the only master in the world. Do you think I'm a child? How could such a thing be possible? Kalula laughed disdainfully, as if he were a child. Impossible. Before I appeared, it was indeed impossible, but now that I have appeared, this world has a master. Dustless continued to speak calmly, his tone as calm as an ancient well. That's right. From the moment I appeared, this world followed my surname. Humph. Shameless. Hearing this, Kululu only snorted in disdain, as if mocking Dustless for overestimating himself. TSK. You're still not convinced. Dustless looked at Klulu with interest and a mischievous smile. You'll believe me in the future. Now, let's get down to business. Don't try to fool me. Hurry up and call me master. In your dreams. Krulu was so angry that her face was trembling. This guy was too arrogant. She was the queen of the vampires, yet she called Dustless master. How was she going to continue living like this? Is that so? Dustless was not angry. He said casually, then it's very simple. I'll strip you naked, tie you up and throw you to the humans. What do you think will happen? You. Do you have to be so shameless? Krolu's expression changed drastically. A rare look of fear appeared on her face. She glared at Dustless and scolded, "Don't you have the demeanor of a strong person? How dare you lay your hands on a girl? You're still a girl." Hearing this, Dustless was speechless. He rolled his eyes and said, "A girl with sharp teeth who wants to drink my blood is too annoying. Let's cut the crap. Are you going to call me master or not? We'll see." Hearing this, Krolu did not say anything else. She turned into a black shadow and ran for her life, disappearing in the blink of an eye. "Brat, you still want to run away in front of me?" Dustless's big hand suddenly grabbed, as if he had expected Krolu to run for her life. 10,000 heavenly attraction. Swoosh swoosh swoosh. Suddenly, a terrifying gravitational force came from behind. Krolu's speed instantly slowed down, and her body kept moving backward. Damn monster. Feeling that the space around her was distorted, Krolu scolded. It was always others who treated her as a monster. This time, it was her turn to call Dustless a monster. Her thoughts were especially complicated. "Come here." Chakra increased its output, and the gravitational force became denser. Krolu was immediately pulled over. "Still want to run?" Dustless asked with a smile, "My cute livestock, come and call me master. Otherwise, I will keep my promise." "Gotcha." As soon as his voice fell, Dustless shot out an energy wave from his finger. It blasted on Krolu's body, and her clothes were instantly torn into pieces. "You pervert!" Krolu flew into a rage and cursed. She could not wait to tear Dustless apart. Dustless was not angry. He calmly faced the angry Krolu and said with a smile, "Oh. Since you have rejected, I will not be so sentimental. I will send you to the humans now. I heard that the Emperor Ghost Army of Japan is very interested in vampire nobles, especially human experiments." Enough. Before Dustless could continue his nonsense, Krolu interrupted him loudly. Finally, she turned her head and said in an extremely soft voice, "Master." The moment her voice fell, Krolu's cheeks turned green with anger. As the queen of the vampire race, she actually called someone master and was treated like a livestock. Not only did she lose face, but also the entire vampire race's face. If you had listened to me earlier, it would not have been so troublesome. After hearing his words, Wuchen kept his promise as he loosened his grip on Krolu. With his eyes closed, he muttered, "Later on, you will understand how lucky you are to make such a decision. The simple word master has given you the entire world. P.S. 3,000 flowers plus more chapters, 3,000 rewards plus more chapters, 1,000 comments plus more chapters, 500 automatic subscriptions plus more chapters." A child wearing clothes that belonged to livestock was holding an exquisite pistol and pointing it at the silver-haired vampire. The child's face was ferocious as she looked at the noble vampire with hatred. Aya. So scary." The silver-haired noble vampire smiled and looked at the child holding the gun with contempt. He said to the child at his feet, "Little Micah, is this the family you mentioned? Little you, run quickly." The golden-haired child called Micah urged. Her face was filled with worry. "This guy is a noble vampire. You are no match for him. Little you, pfft." Without waiting for Micah to continue speaking, the silver-haired noble vampire, Freed Bartley, pierced his right hand into Micah's abdomen. Blood flowed out instantly. "What have you done, you bastard? I'm going to kill you." Yuichiro Hayakuya was enraged by this scene. Without hesitation, he pulled the trigger at Freed's head. Bang! Freed's head was immediately penetrated by the bullet, leaving a fist-sized hole. "Micah, I'll bring you away now. Hang in there for a while." Yuichiro Hayakuya quickly ran over and wanted to help Michael up. However, he was just a child at this moment. His strength was too weak. He could only drag Michael away slowly. A glaring blood trail was left on the floor. I'm going to die. Little you can leave by yourself. Michael smiled. However, Yuichiro Haikuya shook his head stubbornly. Little do you want everyone's efforts to go to waste? Run quickly. He pushed Yuichiro Haikuya forcefully. Michael closed his eyes like a lamp that was about to run out of oil. Damned vampires, there will be a day when I'll exterminate all of you. Finally, Yuichiro Haikuya roared and left. His tears fell like rain. He swore in his heart that he would kill all vampires in the future. Little staring at the back of Yuichiro Haikuya, Michael opened his eyes again. I seem to have come at the right time. An indifferent voice suddenly sounded. Two figures suddenly walked out from the darkness. They were Dushless and Krolitsapizi. You bastard, how dare you! My blazing angel, staring at Haikuya Michael whose life was hanging by a thread, and Haikuya Yuichiro who had disappeared without a trace, Krolu was enraged. Her beautiful eyes were full of devastation. Freed, don't play dead. Give me an explanation. Otherwise, I don't mind letting you die for real. Oh. Krolu, you're really cold. Just now, my head was smashed by that brat. Can't you be gentler to me? Freed suddenly stood up. There was still a hole in his head. At the same time, he also noticed Dushless. He was stunned for a moment. After all, he was a human. Wouldn't it be strange for him to be with the vampire queen? However, Dustless acted as if he didn't notice Freed. He pointed at the direction where Yuichiro Haikuya escaped and asked, Is the way out of this godforsaken place the brat ran to? That's right. Krola nodded. P.S. 3,000 fresh flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 evaluation votes plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. Chapter 2357. Attention, everyone. Stay in formation. Noticing the appearance of the vampires, Akemi and the others were on high alert. They unsheathed their ghost curse equipment, giving off a deadly aura. Brat, what are you waiting for? Come over here if you don't want to die. Noticing that Yuichiro was still in a daze, Akemi hurriedly scolded him. She scolded him in her heart. This kid is so stupid. If you weren't valuable, no one would save you. On the other hand, Dustless was ignored and became the target of public criticism. You're just a mere livestock. How dare you run away? You deserve to die. The incoming vampires also saw Ike's Hanren, Dushless and the others. The livestock uniform on Yuichiro Haikuya's body was particularly eye-catching. The group of vampires was immediately able to recognize him. However, sensing the presence of the King Ghost Army, the group of vampires did not dare to act rashly. They stared at each other like tigers watching their prey. Let's get rid of this kid first. When the vampires realized that the King Ghost Army had no intention of protecting Dushless, they glared at him fiercely. Especially when they saw that Dushless had nothing on him. He also did not have any ghost curse equipment. His skin was fair, his facial features were delicate, and his body was spotless. At first glance, they could tell that he was a pretty boy who could not even truss up a chicken. No doubt, he was the most delicious lamb. This is great. So, they thought I was a pushover. Dustless helplessly scratched his head and sighed. However, in the eyes of the vampires, this was a look of fear and despair. Akemi, do you want to help? Akemi's teammates asked. Most of the humans in this world had gone extinct. Saving as many as possible was a good thing. No. Akemi's eyes were cold and emotionless. This might be the vampire's scheme. It's not like we haven't encountered such things before. Have you forgotten? When we are saving people, our formation will be disrupted and this will give the vampires an opportunity to attack. Hearing this, everyone fell silent and chose to watch silently. As for Yuichiro, perhaps due to exhaustion, he had already fainted. Attack! A leader of the vampires ordered loudly, and the vampires who surrounded Dustless immediately besieged him from all sides. You overestimate yourself. Seeing this, Dustless sneered and pushed with both hands. Boundless gravity erupted. Shinra Tensei. Bang, bang, bang. The incoming vampires were hit one after another. Cracking sounds could be heard as they were attacked by the ferocious repulsive force. Everyone's bones were crushed, and their bodies flew backward like kites with broken strings. This sudden turn of events caused Ike's Hongren and her teammates to widen their eyes in disbelief. Am I seeing things? Red Lotus, this guy killed 6 or 7 vampires in seconds. Everyone stared at Dustless in shock. The evil black flames descended and vaporized the vampires. Not even a trace of them was left. Heine's Hongren's expression changed. P.S. 3,000 flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 rating plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. Chapter 2358. What kind of ability is this? So powerful. Even Akase herself was tongue-tied, let alone her teammates. She stared at Dustless's back in disbelief. This level of strength was simply invincible. To be able to kill 6 or 7 vampires in a short span of a few seconds was an overwhelming victory. At the very least, Akase believed that she was incapable of such a feat. However, it was precisely because he had killed several vampires that he was cleared of any suspicion of being a spy. Cough cough cough, Akase looked around cautiously. After discovering that there were no more vampires hiding, she revealed a rare smile and took the initiative to greet Shirfong. May I know your name? Just call me Dustless. Dustless replied lazily. However, in his heart, he hated this fellow even more. Earlier, before he displayed his strength, Akase had ignored him. Now that she had witnessed Dustless's strength, she was suddenly snubbed. Wasn't the speed at which she changed her attitude a little too quickly? That move you used just now was. It doesn't seem to be accursed equipment, right? Akase asked tentatively. Her eyes glowed as she looked at Dustless, as though she had seen a huge treasure. Researching some strange abilities, especially weapons and equipment that could destroy vampires, had always been his hobby. That's ninjutsu. Dustless did not try to hide it. He then said calmly, however, in this world, only I can use that ability. If you want to equip yourself with it, you should give up. Is that so? After hearing Dustless's words, Akase's eyes dimmed significantly. Of course, it was only for a brief moment. She was not the type to give up so easily. Take me to your territory. Dustless did not want to lower himself to Akase's level. If this fellow intended to use him as a lab rat, he would not mind giving her a taste of despair. After a few hours of travel, Dustless also arrived at the human city. It was slightly different from what he had imagined. He had thought that the world had been conquered by vampires, but in fact, it was not the case. Humans still controlled some territories, although the area was pitifully small, like livestock in captivity. However, after saying goodbye to the vampire and seeing a lively human being, Dustless felt particularly close. You have to come with us. Before Dustless could go out for a walk, a group of Japanese Ghost Army soldiers surrounded Dustless. Every one of them looked unfriendly. I don't think they're from Ike's Red Lotus, Dustless said with a frown. Ikane's Akitomo was a scheming person. She might have some thoughts about him, but she would not fall out with him so quickly. I heard that you used a very special method to deal with the vampires. Tell me, what kind of ability is that? A condescending tone suddenly sounded. It was as if a superior was speaking to a subordinate. P.S. 3,000 flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 comments plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. Chapter 2359. Kid, you better look carefully. Do you know who is in front of you? He is from the Sea family, the leader of the Emperor Ghost Army. Yes, don't be ungrateful. Master Simu Ren wants you to be his subordinate. That is your fortune. Don't be ungrateful. Look at your own status. That's right. Noticing that Ji Mu's old face had turned green, his underlings immediately began to threaten Wu Qin. Some of them even pulled out their swords, their gaze is sinister. You bunch of idiots. How sad. Dustless let out a long sigh. He could not help but pity the humans. If everyone was willing to let go of their grudges and work together to deal with the vampires, perhaps the human cities would have been recovered long ago. It was a pity that most people put their wisdom into fighting for power and profit. You brat, Simu Ren took a deep breath and suppressed his urge to kill. He asked coldly, I will ask you one last time. Are you coming with me? In fact, it was just as Dustless had guessed. Simu Ren had indeed heard the news from Ik Sakato. He heard that they had found a mysterious person with a powerful ability. That was why he had rushed over. Who would have thought that Dustless would slap him in the face so fiercely that he grimaced in pain? I will repeat myself. Don't be ungrateful. Get out of here before I get angry. Dustless impatiently scolded. If it was in the past, he would have already killed him. Attack! Simu Ren could not take it anymore. He waved his hand and his followers began to attack Dustless. You overestimate yourself. Seeing this, Dustless did not hold back. A light appeared in his hand and the dazzling Kusanagi sword appeared in the blink of an eye. The light was so dazzling that no one dared to look at it directly. You're really strange. You're mine. Seeing this, Simu Ren was not afraid. Instead, he was even more interested in Dustless. His eyes were like torches, and deep in his eyes, there was a strong sense of joy. You still haven't figured out the situation. Dustless couldn't help but shake his head. Wasn't this kid too confident? Did he really think that the Sea clan could cover the sky with one hand? Capture him, just injure him. Don't kill him. Dark Twilight waved his hand, and the group of lackeys charged at Dustless. Too slow. Dustless then waved his hand and a golden beam of light slashed out. Poochie! 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 The attacking Emperor Ghost Army soldiers were hit one after another, and a ghastly wound appeared on their abdomens, only one step away from their hearts. You dare to hurt him. Miao Mu was stunned for a moment before he roared. He was so angry that his nose was almost crooked. He was looking for trouble with Dustless, but in the end, his own people were injured. How could he endure this? You should thank me for not killing them. Dustless said calmly, and then he hooked his finger at Dark Twilight. Kid, you're going to have to do it yourself. I heard that you're the eldest son of the Sea clan, the leader of the Emperor Ghost Army. You seem to be a lieutenant general. Come on, let me see what you're capable of. Wu Chen's face was full of disdain. He looked at Dark Twilight Man as if he was a clown, completely infuriating Dark Twilight Man, since you want to die, I'll fulfill your wish. Dark Twilight couldn't bear it anymore. His face was filled with hostility. Clang! The tachi at his waist was unsheathed, releasing terrifying golden lightning. Paw! 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 The sound was so loud that it hurt people's ears. Repent for me. The tachi suddenly slashed down. At the tip of the tachi, a huge golden lightning suddenly appeared, fiercely rushing towards Dustless. The ground was scorched black, and a straight crack appeared. The power was extremely strong. As expected of a lieutenant general of the Emperor Ghost Army, his explosive strength couldn't be underestimated. It was enough to pose a huge threat to vampires. Of course, it could only pose a threat to vampires. As for Dustless, such weak lightning. I don't even want to dodge it, and I don't even want to elementalize. It's too weak. Dustless closed his eyes, letting the lightning bombard his body. Boom! 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 There was no doubt that the last terrifying lightning fell on Dustless's head. His whole body was swallowed by the dazzling golden lightning, and his limbs were wrapped in lightning. Bathed in lightning, Dustless was like a lightning man. This, how is this possible? After a moment, the dark twilight stared at Dustless. His eyes were filled with shock, and his lips were trembling slightly. Dustless, who was struck by lightning, was completely fine. His expression was calm, and his hands were in his pockets, leisurely. Is that all? After a while, Wuchen suddenly spoke up. He looked at Ji Mu's eyes as if his heart had waned and he had lost interest in him. In Dustless's words, the dark twilight self-esteem was strong, but his strength was incomparably weak. Compared to you, I prefer that Ike Sakatsuki. At least he's tactful. Dustless suddenly tightened his thumb and pointed it at the dark twilight's chest. The light at the tip condensed, and the ability of the glint fruit was activated. Laser. A straight beam of light shot out at an extremely fast speed. It was like a falling meteor, and disappeared in the blink of an eye. Its speed was completely beyond the limit of what the human eye could capture. Poochie. The dark twilight's abdomen was suddenly penetrated by the beam of light, and a thumb-sized hole appeared. The view on the other side could be seen. Lord Dark Twilight. Seeing Dustless's ferocity, many of the Emperor Ghost Army were stunned. This was a lieutenant general. How could it be so easy for Dustless to kill a chicken? It was too illogical. Damn, luckily I was smart and didn't provoke him. On the other side, Ike Sakatsuki, who was secretly observing, felt a chill run down her spine. If she rashly provoked Dustless, she would probably end up like the Dark Twilights. Fortunately, she deliberately leaked the news and let the Dark Twilight's Dark Twilight be the scapegoat. As expected, he was beaten like a dog. P.S. 3,000 flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 comments plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. Chapter 2360. Hee hee. Serves him right. Dustless is really something. If he had been a little more ruthless, he could have killed Ji Murin. If that had happened, that old man Ji Tianli would have been furious. Akatsuki sneered at the scene. From the beginning to the end, he was gloating. As for sympathy, even if it was for a vampire, he would not have sympathized with the Ji family. Akatsuki's childhood sweetheart was Ji Jinori. The two of them were childhood sweethearts. In the end, because they were separated from the main family, they were heartlessly separated. After Ji Jinori died, Akatsuki hated the Ji family from the bottom of her soul. If Ji Murin died, he did not mind opening a bottle of champagne to celebrate. Plop. With his body pierced, Ji Murin was like a candle in the wind. His strength was instantly drained, and he fell to the ground in extreme pain. That's it. Dustless slowly walked over and stepped on Ji Murin's cheek. He asked coldly, "Little brat, where is your ambition? Where is that arrogant look from before? Kill me if you dare." Ji Murin roared like a raging beast. His eyes were red and emitted a terrifying light. Kill you. I will not use such a gentle method. Dustless shook his head and continued, if I kill you, it will be the same as freeing you. I will let you live in the nightmare that I created for you forever. Isn't that better? Bastard, 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 Jimu roared furiously in his heart, and the veins on his forehead bulged. As a lieutenant general of the Ghost Army of Japan and the eldest son of the Ji family, now Wuchen was stepping on his face. What kind of great shame was this? Ji Murin felt like he was about to explode. Bad guy, big bad guy, let go of big brother, or father will teach you a lesson. Right at this time, a childish voice passed over. Dustless's line of sight shifted over. A purple-haired little girl immediately came into view. You look familiar. Dustless stared at the little girl for a moment. Suddenly, he remembered that she called Feng Mu Ren Big Brother. He then asked with interest, Kid, are you called Feng Xiaoya? Yes. No, my name is not Chua Xiaoya. The little girl nodded when she heard this, and then she immediately shook her head in denial for fear that Dustless would harm her. Her appearance was rather comical. Although this guy doesn't deserve death, he still needs to be taught a lesson. Dustless said calmly. He didn't have the intention to kill the people of Dusk, but he had to teach them an unforgettable lesson. Feel it well. Dustless laughed. His laughter was so evil that many people couldn't help but take a few steps back. At this moment, Dustless seemed to be even more terrifying than those noble vampires. Tsukimi. Boundless psyche invaded Feng Mu Ren's mind, and the world in his eyes changed drastically. He was horrified to discover that he seemed to have entered another spacetime. Feng Mu Ren was tied to a cross alone, and in front of him, Dustless was holding a dagger and staring at him, as though he was considering where to start. Ah. Get lost, get lost, get lost. A few minutes later, the twilight inside the Tsukimi world had a mental breakdown. It opened its mouth like a madman and roared with endless fear. Kid, go back. In the real world, Dustless glanced at Feng Xiaoya and pointed at the trembling Feng Mu Ren at his feet. He said with a smile, although I didn't kill him, it's unknown if he can still live normally after experiencing Tsukimi. Perhaps his temperament will change drastically. In short, stay away from this brother of yours in the future. With that said, Dustless left without waiting for Feng Xiaoya's reaction. What a strange fellow. Staring at Dustless's back, Feng Xiaoya tilted her head. Her puzzled look was extremely adorable. She couldn't figure out what he was talking about. This fellow is too terrifying. Icase Red Lotus looked at the collapsed Feng Mu Ren from afar. He was trembling, and his eyes were gray and dull, as though he had experienced the most terrifying thing in his life. What made Icase Red Lotus at a loss of whether to laugh or cry was that the crotch of Feng Mu Ren's pants was inexplicably wet. There was also a strange smell. He had actually peed his pants from fright. If it were in the past, Icase Red Lotus would definitely mock Feng Mu Ren, but for some reason, she couldn't laugh now. She understood Feng Mu Ren's personality. His willpower could be said to be iron. Now, Dustless had actually been tortured by this fellow to the point of peeing his pants. What kind of terrifying encounter had he experienced? Just thinking about it made Icase Red Lotus's heart turn cold. Her fear of Dustless also multiplied. Thankfully, the one who provoked Dustless was not me. Icase Red Lotus shrunk her neck. She suddenly felt that she was too lucky. This was practically the blessing of an angel. If she had been a little more reckless back then, the one lying there and peeing his pants might have been her. That show just now, was it exciting? A ghostly voice suddenly rang out. There was no warning and it was unknown where the voice came from. There was no one around and it was deathly silent. Good, of course it was good. Icase Red Lotus said without hesitation. If possible, I wish that the one who got peed on was that old bastard Feng Tianli. Feng Tianli was also the person in charge of the Feng family. At the same time, he was also the marshal of the Imperial Ghost Army. He was also the main culprit who separated I-Case Red Lotus from Feng Tianli. Who is it? However, the moment he said those words, I-Case Red Lotus regretted it. If the hardcore members of the Feng family were to hear this, he would definitely be finished. He abruptly turned his head and saw a pair of smiling eyes sizing him up. I-Case Red Lotus's pupils shrank and a look of panic flashed across his face. His face suddenly turned serious. This tall man's eyes were cold and intimidating. One of his cheeks was covered by a mask. His tall and sturdy figure looked very oppressive. Just by standing there, he made people unable to breathe. He had an imposing aura without being angry. You must take care of that bastard who provoked the Bai family. Otherwise, anyone can learn from Dustless in the future. For example, Akira I-Case. Hearing this, Bai Tianli remained silent. He only glanced at Bai Twilight indifferently and asked in a deep voice, "That guy defeated you? Is he very strong?" "Yes." Bai Twilight nodded. Thinking of the torture he experienced, being imprisoned in the Tsukuyumi world for 24 hours, it was a fate worse than death. Not only is he strong, but his ability is also very special. It doesn't seem to be a curse. According to Dustless, it seems to be a ninjutsu. Bai Twilight said in detail, "Although I don't know what ability it is, one thing is certain, he is very strong." Trash. After a moment of silence, Bai Tianli suddenly glanced at Bai Twilight coldly. "You actually didn't even figure out that guy's ability. Twilight, you really disappointed me." As soon as his voice fell, Bai Tianli turned around and left, unwilling to look at Bai Twilight. "Father, the handsome young man on the other side slightly changed his expression. When he was about to chase after him, he was stopped by Bai Twilight. "Enough, Midnight, do you think father will sympathize with me? Stop dreaming." This handsome young man was the adopted son of the Bai family, Bai Midnight. In father's eyes, the so-called family has long faded. Bai Twilight stared at Bai Tianli's back. He was unusually calm, and there wasn't even the slightest change in his expression. It seemed that he had already expected such an outcome. "You go and follow father." I suspect that he went to find Dustless. Ji Mu's eyes sparkled as he calmly said, "Father has two choices for those who have great powers. Either he roped them in or he killed them. Not to mention, that guy provoked the Ji family." Bai Midnight was silent. In the end, he nodded his head. As the adopted son of the Bai family, he knew the nature of this family too well. There was no affection between brothers and sisters. The only thing left was to make use of each other. At the same time, I-Case Hongren led Dustless to a special place. The two of them stood in front of a sealed iron door. The door was covered with various talismans. They could also hear eerie and strange screams that made them feel uncomfortable. "This is the place." Opening the iron door, I-Case Hongren and Dustless entered the room. The first thing that entered their eyes was a few green-faced and fanged ghost statues. They were abnormally terrifying. These masks seemed to be able to come to life at any time, causing one to involuntarily shiver. "This is it." Dustless suddenly saw a katana. Without thinking, he walked over. Chapter 2362. That's it. On the other side, Akatsuki was stunned and couldn't help but be speechless. She didn't even tell Dustless the rules, but this guy directly took the ghost curse weapon. Isn't he afraid of being controlled by the ghost? "Wait, there's something I want to tell you, for the sake of safety," Akatsuki said seriously. "The ghost curse weapon is not a trivial matter. What do I want?" Without giving Akatsuki a chance to talk nonsense, Dustless interrupted her and said indifferently, "Do you think a ghost can control me? This joke is too tasteless." Tasteless. Hearing this, Akatsuki's mouth twitched. It turned out that such a serious question, in the eyes of others, was not worth mentioning. At the same time, from the moment he pulled out a Juro pill, a strong spiritual force invaded his mind. The world in front of Dustless also changed, a hazy white fog, there was no one around, it seemed that he had come to a strange world. Interesting. After a while, Dustless's mouth suddenly flashed a thought-provoking smile. Just now, he clearly felt the existence of the unknown, deliberately hiding from him and disappeared. "Do you think you can run away?" Dustless whispered secretly. At the same time, his observation hockey spread out. In just a moment, the hidden shadow was found. Shoo shoo shoo. Without saying a word, Silver directly turned into an aurora and rushed over. Whoosh! The moving flash was unstoppable, the harsh sound made people cover their ears, and the figure hidden in the white fog was no exception. What kind of monster is it, making such a big movement? The boy in the white fog was surprised. Looking at him, he was obviously a man, but his appearance and dress were very similar to a woman's. It was very strange. "Kid, do you have a hobby of cross-dressing?" The white fog surrounding the boy was dispelled, and Dustless appeared like a ghost, with his hands in his pockets, quietly looking down at the blood-eyed boy. "I'm not a kid, I'm a few thousand years old." Looking at Dustless, the purple-haired young man grumbled, "Also, get this straight. I'm a ghost. How can I not be afraid? Be careful, or I'll swallow you." As soon as he finished speaking, the purple-haired imp made a face. "Swallow me?" Dustless laughed involuntarily and suddenly raised a finger, looking somewhat baffled. "What do you mean?" The purple-haired imp, Ajiramuru, asked with a frown. Dustless's host gave off a strange feeling. "You don't even know this. No wonder you're a child." Dustless shook his head and said something that made Ajiramuru fly into a rage. "I only need one finger to kill you 1,000 times over. Mere human, how dare you look down on me?" Hearing this, Ajiramuru looked at Dustless angrily, as if he was really enraged. He bared his terrifying fangs. "You don't believe me?" Dustless asked indifferently. "Of course I don't believe you." Ajiramuru proudly turned his head and said proudly with his back facing Dustless, "I'm a ghost, and you're just a human. How can you use—" The words that were about to come out of his mouth stopped abruptly. Unknowingly, Dustless's thumb was already aimed at Ajiramuru's neck, embellished with a dazzling golden light, as if it could pierce Ajiramuru's throat as long as he flicked it gently. "Now you believe me." Dustless smiled slightly. This world really respected the strong. After showing a little strength, this kid immediately became obedient. "You brat, that move just now is not something that ordinary humans can control." Ajiramuru looked at Dustless curiously, his eyes filled with disbelief. For example, Ajiramuru's former host, Kiyoshi Shinori, was far less mysterious than Dustless. At least, he didn't have such an incredible ability. "I'm indeed slightly different from other humans, just like you're different from other vampires," Dustless said plainly. "You know that I'm a vampire." Hearing this, Ajiramuru looked at Dustless in shock. The so-called ghost was actually a vampire that turned into a vampire after extreme blood loss. "There are many things that you don't know, little brat. In short, you're my weapon from now on." In the misty white space, Wu Chen's figure disappeared after leaving behind such a sentence. What was left behind was Ajiramuru, who could only stare blankly. Was there something wrong? This is his world, and Dustless can come and go as he pleases. In the outside world, Ike's Hongren looked at Dustless nervously. As long as he didn't tame Ajiramuru, she would kill Dustless. Clang! 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 Time ticked by, and Dustless still didn't move. Ike's Hongren couldn't help but unsheath her tachi. What are you trying to do? Ike's Hongren. The sudden voice caused Ike's Hongren to break out in cold sweat. Raising her head, she saw Dustless silently sizing her up. I thought you can't control ghosts. Ike's Hongren wiped off the cold sweat and took a deep breath. Can't control ghosts. Are you afraid that he will take over my body? That little brat called Ajarama would barely be able to control me even if he was 1,000 times stronger. Dustless snorted. It's just a ghost. How are the preparations for my residence coming along? Dustless walked toward the exit. Since he had already obtained the ghost curse equipment, there was no need for him to stay here. That's a small matter. I have already informed them. From now on, you can live without any worries. Ike's Hongren vowed. That's good. Our previous grudges are written off. You may leave. Dustless glanced at Ike's Hongren and left. However, after taking a few steps, a new uninvited guest appeared. P.S. 3,000 flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 rating plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. Chapter 2363. The man who suddenly appeared was burly and muscular. His huge body was several times heavier than Dustless's, and he exuded an oppressive aura. It wasn't hard to tell that this person was either rich or noble. He was someone of high status. What's the matter? Looking at the man in front of him, Dustless asked calmly, Big guy, get out of my way. What if I don't let you have the meeting? The burly man asked. Nothing will happen. Dustless was still calm as he said slowly, but when you leave, you'll definitely be lying down. How dare you? Seeing Dustless's arrogance, the Emperor Ghost Army who followed him here glared at him. This is the Emperor Ghost Army's Marshal, Sir Sun Tianli. Mortal, watch your tone and cooperate. It's best if you don't cause trouble for yourself. The shrimp soldiers and crab generals who followed Sun Tianli scolded loudly. So it's the Emperor Ghost Army's Marshal. Hearing this, Dustless wasn't surprised at all. He maintained his composure and grinned, the King of Clowns is here. What business do you have with me? How dare you? Clang, clang, clang. The Emperor Ghost Army who followed Sun Tianli all drew their swords and looked at Dustless with hatred. It was as if they would join forces to cut Dustless into pieces and tear this arrogant brat apart if Sun Tianli gave the order. You've got guts. Sun Tianli looked at Dustless with interest and said in a low voice, After so many years, you're the first person who dares to speak to me like this. Do you know what kind of consequences this arrogance will bring to you? I don't know. Dustless answered simply, then asked casually, Actually, I also want to ask. Do you know what kind of consequences await those who dare to stand in my way? As Dustless's words fell, the atmosphere became extremely cold. Sun Tianli's gaze became as sharp as a knife, enough to pierce through a person's mind. Are you interested in joining the Emperor Ghost Army? After staying silent for a while, Shui Tianli realized that he still could not see through Dustless. He also understood that this guy's calmness was not an act. He could be considered a talent, so he decided to rope him in. Your son was almost killed by me, Dustless said meaningfully. Aren't you afraid that he will hate you, his father? Hate me? That's his private matter. I have no right to ask. Tai Tianli replied casually. At the same time, he said nonchalantly, furthermore, in this world, human lives are as cheap as dogs. How much do you think the so-called kinship is worth? Besides, the Xi family doesn't need trash. You're quite insightful. As expected of the Supreme Ghost Army's Marshal. Dustless nodded slightly. After a moment of silence, he agreed to see Tianli's invitation. Since I have nothing to do, I'll agree to temporarily join the Emperor Ghost Army. However, there are some things that need to be agreed upon. I don't want anyone to force me. Do you understand? Of course. Shui Tianli agreed without any hesitation. In his opinion, this was the right of the strong. Freedom was a must. Then I can't be stingy. Shui Tianli looked at Dustless with burning eyes. When he thought of the fact that he could easily kill Jimu, Shui Tianli could not help but ponder. Jimu was a lieutenant general. If Dustless was a lieutenant general, it would not be suitable for him. If that's the case, you will be the general of the Supreme Ghost Army from now on. Shui Tianli's words were shocking. Everyone was shocked. Are you kidding me? Why is there such a huge difference between people? Haine Sakemi, who was observing in the dark, suddenly felt her face twitching. Dustless had really reached the heavens in a single step. From an ordinary human to a general of the Supreme Ghost Army, his position was second only to Shui Tianli. Even Ji Mu was not as good as Dustless. This is the benefit of being strong. Haine Sakemi sighed. If it was someone else, they would have to endure for at least a few decades to sit in this position. They would also need to be extremely strong and have a strong background. Let's work together in the future. Shui Tianli stretched out his right hand magnanimously. It seemed that he wanted to shake Dustless's hand. However, he was instantly slapped in the face. Sorry, I'm not feeling well. I'll go back for now. Send someone to inform me if there's anything. After leaving such a sentence, Dustless swaggered away. The Supreme Ghost Army watched in cold sweat. Did this guy know the consequences of offending the Shui family? Then it's settled for now. Shui Tianli did not argue with Dustless. This bit of humiliation was nothing to him. It was not worth falling out with Dustless over this. In fact, the reason why Dustless was made the general of the Supreme Ghost Army was that Shui Tianli found that Dustless did not have the ambition to conquer Japan. This did not conflict with Shui Tianli's interests. Therefore, there was no harm in giving Dustless the position of general. It was equivalent to having a super fighter. Why not? This guy is really lucky. Some Supreme Ghost Army soldiers secretly complained. They would probably be insignificant people for the rest of their lives. On the other hand, Dustless directly became the core of the Supreme Ghost Army. Even Lieutenant General Ji Mu was not as good as Dustless. This is going to be interesting. If Brother Mu Ren knows about this, he will definitely jump out of his bed in anger. Shui Late Night, who had rushed over, happened to see this scene. His eyes narrowed slightly. Although he was the adopted son of the Shui family, he did not have the slightest good impression of this family. He had even discussed with Isai's Hongren to defeat this family together. Bang! 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 About an hour later, as Shui Late Night had guessed, after telling Mu Ren the cause and effect of everything, this guy flew into a rage and smashed all the fruit baskets that were sent over. The originally bandaged wound was bleeding again. His irksome sworn enemy suddenly rode on his head and showed off. This was too infuriating. The speed of a salted fish turning over a new leaf was too fast. P.S. 3,000 flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 comments plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. He had once seen vampires feeding on human blood, killing them all, young and old. Just like harvesting leeks, humans were cut down wave after wave. Not only that, Dustless had also witnessed with his own eyes that when humans were at the brink of death, they would erupt with even greater power, even crazier and more terrifying than wild beasts. For example, those scalp-numbing human experiments. How stupid are vampires? How crazy are humans? This sentence had become Dustless's catchphrase. In a gloomy laboratory, Dustless paced back and forth. When he was bored, he would participate in vampire experiments. Fortunately, as the general of the Supreme Ghost Army, Dustless had participated in many battles against vampires in the past few years. Every time he appeared, the outcome was almost always an overwhelming victory. No matter how many vampires and high-ranking nobles came, they couldn't withstand a single blow and were all crushed. Because of this, Dustless's prestige was like the sun in the sky. The Supreme Ghost Army didn't have to know who the general was, but they had to know who Dustless was. As Dustless had slaughtered too many vampires, every time they saw him, the vampires would run for their lives in groups. This gave Dustless a rather resounding nickname, Golden Reaper. This was all because of the glint fruit. "What are you doing here?" In the laboratory, Ikane's Hongren frowned as she looked at Dustless. In the past few years, she found that she couldn't see through Dustless. Although he was the general of the Supreme Ghost Army, Dustless had always ignored Marshal Si Tianli's orders. He didn't even care about Si Tianli's people. There were even a few times when he slapped Si Tianli in public. "Pay attention to your tone. You're just a lieutenant." Dustless casually found a place to sit down. He looked at the pills on the table and said calmly, "You're quite ambitious, kid. If the Si family finds out about these experiments, do you think you can still live?" "I don't know what you're talking about." Hongren's expression froze, but it was only for a moment. "Is that so?" Dustless smiled. "Then let's start from the beginning. Hongren, why did you save Yuichiro Hayakuya? Don't tell me it was a coincidence. Freed deliberately let Yuichiro Hayakuya go, and you just happened to appear at that time. What's your relationship with vampires?" "No, not just ordinary vampires." "What's your relationship with those noble vampires?" "Humph, that's all a coincidence." Ikane's Hongren quibbled with a gloomy expression. "Coincidence? I can think of it that way, but do you think the Si family will agree?" Dustless asked calmly. This one sentence was a huge blow to Ikane's Hongren. If the Si family found out about Yuichiro Hayakuya, they would definitely investigate. Just the surname Hayakuya alone was enough to attract the attention of the Si family. Boom. 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 It was also at this moment that something unexpected happened. A violent explosion resounded through the sky. P.S. 3,000 fresh flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 reviews plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. Chapter 2365. Looking from afar, black smoke could be seen rising from the school not far away. Those who did not know would think that the school was on fire. However, that was not the case. The vampire used for the experiment has suddenly escaped. Students, please take shelter. The vampire used for the experiment has suddenly escaped. Students, please take shelter. The vampire used for the experiment has suddenly escaped. Students, please take shelter. Take shelter. If you are caught by the vampire, the consequences will be unimaginable. In the broadcast, the phrase, "take refuge," was repeated over and over again. After hearing that the vampire had escaped, many students were scared out of their wits and hurriedly ran for their lives without caring about anything else. For ordinary humans, the vampire was the culprit behind the destruction of the world. They were simply too powerful. Troublesome things keep happening one after another. Red Lotus sighed as she heard the broadcast as well. She helplessly closed her eyes and lay on her chair. Her face revealed a deep sense of helplessness. However, Dustless suddenly tossed the black pill in his hand to Red Lotus and calmly said, "Honestly, I am quite looking forward to it." Looking forward to it. Hearing this, Red Lotus could not help but be stunned. She looked at Dustless suspiciously and said, "Unbelievable, you would be interested in such a boring experiment." No, you misunderstood me." Dustless shook his finger and looked at the black pill. He smiled meaningfully and said, I have always been looking forward to the legendary Seraph of Termination. A power that can destroy the world. TSK, interesting. You bastard. Hearing this, Red Lotus' pupils shrank. When she looked at Dustless again, he had disappeared. All that was left were the black pills on the table. Do not underestimate these pills. In the original work, Yuichiro Hyakuya used these pills to go berserk. The vampire has escaped. That is great. Ha ha ha, the time for me to show off my skills has finally come. Within the chaotic school, there was a figure that was different from the other students. This boy had a face full of excitement as he ran with a katana in his hand. The place he was heading to was the place where the vampire was wreaking havoc. Behind him, there was a purple-haired young lady. You, stop. You can't possibly be a match for the vampire. The girl looked anxious. She was Sui Xiaoya. She wanted to stop Yuichiro, but he ran too fast. She couldn't catch up to him. Who would listen to you? Leave this vampire to me. I'll make Red Lotus see me in a new light and leave this boring school. Yuichiro didn't listen to the advice at all. He kept running with all his strength. How could he let go of such a rare opportunity? Absolutely impossible. You ignorant brat. You have never understood the horror of vampires. How can you kill vampires with your strength? Ignorant. Stupid. Swan Xiaoya was also secretly annoyed. Red Lotus had sent him to monitor Hyakuya Yuichiro, but this brat was really too stupid. If you want to kill a vampire, you must use the ghost curse equipment. Normal weapons are useless against them. Even if the head is pierced, the vampire's abnormal life force can still survive. Furthermore, Yuichiro didn't have any ghost curse equipment. Wasn't he courting death by challenging the vampire? Stupid, listen to me. If you want to kill a vampire, you must use the ghost curse equipment. Otherwise, even if you cut off their head, they can still survive tenaciously. Seeing Yuichiro running faster and faster, Swan Xiaoya, who was panting from exhaustion, continued to persuade him. Only a fool would believe you. Yuichiro still didn't turn back. He stubbornly ran in the direction of the vampire. Not far away, a vampire in a prisoner's uniform was jumping around. Her scarlet eyes were jumping around, looking at the students who were running in all directions. It seemed to be looking for a target to devour. Damn vampire, you want to suck blood, come here. Yuichiro Hyakuya suddenly shouted, and immediately attracted the vampire's attention. Brat, if you want to die, I'll fulfill your wish. The female vampire smiled sinisterly. After licking her lips, she immediately pounced on Yuichiro. Shoo shoo shoo. Her speed was so fast that only a faint afterimage could be seen. So fast. Seeing this, Yuichiro was stunned. The vampire's strength was beyond his imagination. She was so fast that even he couldn't see her clearly. Oh no. Swan Xiaoya's face changed. Looking at the blood at the corner of the female vampire's mouth, she muttered to herself, has she sucked blood? It seems that she has recovered her strength. Get out of the way. You are no match for her. The strength of a hungry vampire and a vampire who had sucked blood were two completely different levels. Get out of the way. Absolutely not. Yuichiro shook his head. He finally found a chance to prove his strength. If he ran away now, Red Lotus would look down on him when she heard the news. Absolutely not. This idiot. He doesn't even have the ghost curse equipment. How dare he challenge a vampire alone? Do you think everyone is as sick as Dustless? Swan Xiaoya cursed. In her impression, the only person who could defeat a vampire without the ghost curse equipment was Dustless. However, in this world, there was only one Dustless, just like there was only one general in the Emperor Ghost Army. They were both unique. Go to hell. Yuichiro's eyes were ferocious. He fiercely swung his sword, aiming at the vampire's head. It was as if he was going to split her whole body. Yuichiro's hatred for vampires was engraved in his heart. If it weren't for vampires, his family wouldn't have died. If it weren't for vampires, Michael wouldn't have been pierced in the abdomen by Freed. However, what happened next caused his pupils to constrict abruptly. P.S. 3,000 fresh flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 comments plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. Chapter 2366. Clang. When he looked up, he saw that the female vampire had used only one hand to grab the blade that was coming at her. It was effortless, as if she was grabbing a fire stick. How is this possible? Yuichiro Haikuya was stunned. He looked at the female vampire in astonishment. His heart trembled violently, and his eyes became hollow. Looking at the distorted face, he felt a lingering fear. The John's 4 horsemen that I killed in the past was not this powerful. Yuichiro was trembling and his legs were weak. Idiot. Unexpectedly, the female vampire only smiled contemptuously. That's just a bunch of trash. I'm a vampire. Do you think a small fry like you can kill me? Are you dreaming? Idiot. Yuichiro was furious. He clenched his teeth and used all his strength to grab the blade. It was as if he was going to pull it out. Hee, the female vampire just smiled contemptuously, her 2 fingers gently grasped the tip of the katana. In any case, even if Yuichiro tried his best, he couldn't pull out the katana. It was as if the difference in strength between them was dimensional. Get out of the way, Yuichiro. Yuichiro heard Sasuke Xiaoya's voice from behind. He turned around and saw the girl holding a huge scythe. Swoosh swoosh swoosh. She waved her slender arm and the blade was aimed at the female vampire's face. Ghost curse weapon. The female vampire's body trembled and her pupils shrunk. She felt a piercing chill. She did not hesitate and quickly retreated. Brat, you are strong. The female vampire's face turned pale. She might have died if she was a little slower. She immediately pointed at Yuichiro and said with disdain, "You are much stronger than this idiot." Idiot. Yuichiro's face was red with anger. He turned around and looked at Sasuke Xiaoya furiously. Give me your weapon. I want this guy to regret living in this world. You idiot. Sasuke Xiaoya scolded, I don't understand. Lieutenant Colonel Okamoto saw you. Don't you know? Ghost curse weapon can only be used by the host who has signed a contract. He is indeed an idiot. The female vampire also mocked Yuichiro, you're overestimating yourself. You don't even have a cursed weapon, and you dare to challenge me. Do you want to die that much? Swish. 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 As soon as she finished speaking, the female vampire pounced on Yuichiro Haikuya. It was easier to kill this guy. Swanxiaoya had the ghost curse equipment, and her strength was obviously not something that Haikuya Yuichiro could compare to. Quick, dodge. Excellent. Sasuke Xiaoya ordered anxiously. She scolded the female vampire for being shameless. Capturing Yuichiro Haikuya alive was equivalent to having a hostage. The chances of leaving alive would be greater. Dodge. What kind of joke was this? I'm going to kill all the vampires. These damned scum have no right to live in this world. Yuichiro Haikuya was extremely stubborn. His eyes were bloodshot as if he was possessed by a devil. Die. Yuichiro Haikuya held the sword with both hands and slashed at the female vampire with all his strength. However, no matter how hard he tried, the result was the same as before. Clang, clang, clang. The long-haired female vampire grabbed Yuichiro Haikuya's tachi with only one hand. She sneered, "You're too weak without the ghost curse equipment. Get over here." With a sudden tug, Yuichiro Haikuya fell over. His throat was instantly locked, and he became a glorious hostage. Idiot! Sasuke Xiaoya saw this scene and closed her eyes in despair. Although this kid hated vampires, he knew too little about this race. "I won't hold back." With a sinister smile, the female vampire bit Yuichiro Haikuya's neck and greedily sucked his blood. Damn it, damn it, damn it. Seeing this scene, Swan Xiaoya was extremely displeased, but she was also extremely helpless. She could only watch helplessly. Once the female vampire sucked blood, her strength would recover even faster. When that happened, he didn't even know if he could deal with her. Damn it. Yuichiro Haikuya was furious. He wanted to kill the vampire, but in the end, he became her nourishment. It was extremely frustrating. "Let's stop here." At this moment, an indifferent voice suddenly came. This voice seemed to contain an inexplicable power. Everyone stopped what they were doing, including the female vampire who was sucking blood. They all looked in the direction of the voice at the same time. "Which bastard is disturbing my meal?" The female vampire was furious. She raised her head and looked over. Her pupils suddenly shrank as if she had seen a ghost. She quickly retreated as if she had seen her natural enemy. "Long time no see, Xiaoya." Dustless glanced at Sasuke Xiaoya. His cold cheeks revealed a rare smile. "I didn't expect that kid from back then to be so strong. He can even stand on his own. Phew. Fortunately, you're here. Otherwise, this kid would be finished." After she saw Wu Chen make an appearance, Chua Xiaoya heaved a sigh of relief and revealed a shy smile like a young girl, and her beautiful eyes faintly carried an expression of adoration. "It's you. Dustless." Yuichiro Haikuya, who had escaped from a disaster, looked at Dustless in surprise. Dustless was also the one who had escaped from the vampire city with him. However, what was surprising was that after a few years, Dustless's face didn't show any signs of aging. He was like a vampire who always maintained his youth. What's going on? Why is this female vampire suddenly so scared? Yuichiro Haikuya looked at the trembling female vampire with a puzzled expression. Dustless didn't seem to do anything. Just by appearing, she was so scared that she couldn't find her bearings. Idiot. Sasuke Xiaoya shook her head and explained, "Dustless is the only general in the Emperor Ghost Army. Do you know how strong he is?" The vampires even gave him a special nickname. To the vampires, he is a man of nightmares. P.S. 3,000 fresh flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 comments plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. You're tuning into the Journey of the Soul YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.